Good evening and welcome to the June 22nd, 2026 City Council Work Session. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. For work sessions like this one, there is no opportunity for public comment, and those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meetings materials page of the City of Eugene website. In case of a medical emergency, an automated external defibrillator, an AED, is located on the counter behind staff, located to your left or on the west side of this room. And in case of an emergency evacuation, exit doors through the double doors located at the back of the room, and the doors to the patio can also be used as needed for emergency exit. Thank you again for joining us this evening. And I now call the June 22nd work session of the Eugene City Council to order. The Eugene City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F, exempt public records. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the meeting, and representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to record or report on any of the deliberations during executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session, and at the end of executive session, we will return back to open session and welcome the audience back into the public work session. Councilors who are remote with us, please log out of this public work session and log back in using the executive session Zoom invitation. We will see you there in a moment. June 22nd, 2026 City Council Work Session and call the June 22nd, 2026 Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order. And I'll turn to the agency director to introduce our second topic, which is a work session on the 1059 Willamette redevelopment and financial assistance.
Thank you, Mayor. In January, you received an update on the project to redevelop the property at 1059 Willamette Street into new mixed-income housing project in our downtown core. At that work session, you heard about growing funding gaps and financial challenges, approving an extension to the closing date so that the team could prepare a request for additional financial assistance. Well, today we'll provide you more information about the request and background on the project's financials, and we're hoping that this is going to be good news for you to hear.
Thank you, Agency Director. Good evening, City Councilors and Mayor, or I should say Agency Board members and Mayor. I'm Amanda D'Souza, Development Programs Manager in the Community Development Division. I'm joined by Ann Fifield, Economic Development Manager, and Will Dowdy, Community Development Director. We are here today to provide an update on the redevelopment of 1059 Willamette into a mixed-use, mixed-income housing project. This project aims to address many city goals, not only providing much-needed housing units, but providing them at levels that aren't typically produced. Located across from LTD's downtown station, the households in this transit-oriented development would have smaller carbon footprints, and its residents would bring vibrancy to a long vacant block in our downtown core. We last spoke to you about this project in January when we let you know that the team was preparing a request for additional financial assistance, which they estimated would be in the $6 to $10 million range. We're now back with that request and more details about the project's financials. Today, you'll consider the funding request as the agency board. If you decide to approve the request, you'll then gavel in as City Council and consider revisions to the development agreement terms to reflect the additional funding. Before we dig into the specific request, I'll do a quick recap of the project and its key milestones. As a reminder, we're working with a team jointly led by DeChase Nixis and Edlin & Company. Both of these are experienced developers with a variety of market rate and affordable housing projects throughout the Pacific Northwest. The project they're leading, and which you've approved, includes 133 units. 68 of those would be income qualified to 80% of area median income. 65 would be market rate. Those income-qualified units would remain affordable for 35 years, which is longer than the minimum 20 years that we had required. The project would offer resident services from Cornerstone Community Housing. 10 units will be designated for Hope and Safety Alliance. There's an active ground floor with incubator retail space and local art. There's pet amenities. The building is now all electric. And Council and the Agency Board have authorized the use of $1.84 million for SDC's permits and other project-related costs. Next, I'll walk through some of the key milestones. The building's been vacant since 2013, when Lane Community College moved to their new downtown campus. In 2019, we began exploring the possibility of using the site to pilot a mixed-income housing project, and that year, LCC approved sale of the property to the city. We acquired the property in 2020 using federal community development block grant dollars, and a few months later, Council approved the use of a request for proposals, or RFP process, for disposition of the site. The RFP outlined several criteria for the project and identified the availability of $1.1 million for SDCs and permits. That $1.1 million was a combination of downtown urban renewal funds and the MUPD moderate income housing fee collected from Gordon Lofts. The RFP was released at the end of 2020, and we received one response, which Council selected in June of 2021. Later that year, Council approved deal points for the proposed project, and then in May of 2023, you approved revisions to those deal points. In June of 2023, Council amended the Downtown Urban Renewal Plan, increasing the spending limit by $50 million and emphasizing the intent to use the majority of the funding to support new housing in the downtown core. In February 2024, you approved the MUPD for the project and revised deal points, and on that same day, the agency board approved an additional $740,000 of urban renewal funds. Finally, in January of this year, we provided Council with an update on the project, letting you know about their financing challenges and asking if you wanted to give the development team more time to refine their request for additional urban renewal funding, which is what we're presenting today. Before we dig into today's specific ask, I want to address that 2-year gap that you see in the timeline between 2024 and 2026. After council and the agency board took those actions in February of 2024, the development team was full steam ahead on the project, finalizing their design, soliciting bids with their general contractor, completing the environmental review, and applying for and receiving approval on their building permits. Basically everything that they needed to start construction in early 2025. At the time, they had received commitment from what's known as a double bottom line equity investor. That basically means that the investor evaluates both the financial merits of the project and the social impacts, and they are typically willing to invest in projects that result in financial returns that are less than that they could get elsewhere. That investor was very interested in the project, but were unable to provide the full equity needed for this project due to unexpected funding needs of their other projects that were already underway. The investor continued to reiterate their interest in providing the equity, but by the fall of last year, after they were still unable to fully commit to fund availability, the development team went back to the drawing board, and that's why we're here today. With that, I'll present the financial request you're considering. I'll remind you of what's been committed already. The city and agency have committed $1.84 million for SDC's permits, demolition, and abatement. The city will be providing the land at appraised value, which is $1, as part of our land acquisition program. And council approved a MUPD, or 10-year property tax exemption for the project. Today, the agency board will consider whether to approve the development team's request for up to $8.66 million of additional downtown urban renewal funds. That would bring the total contribution to $10.5 million. We're concurrently looking at whether there's an opportunity to blend some of that request with the downtown loan. The additional funds would be used for hard and soft construction costs, including prevailed wages, which this project would be required to pay. I'll now hand it off to Ann to talk a little bit more about the project's financials.
Hi, Ann Fifield, Economic Development Manager. The team shared financial details with staff about the project. They provided us with their total development budget, including the cost estimate from their general contractor. The total development cost is $38.7 million. Right now, they have 3 sources of funds to cover that cost, that $38.7 million. First, they have a bank loan for $20.5 million. The bank has limited the loan to an amount that has a debt coverage ratio of 1.25. That is, the bank wants the building's net operating income to be 125% of the mortgage payment. That's a standard term required by the bank. The net operating income, which is commonly referred to as the NOI, means the rent minus all the operating costs except the debt service. Based on this project's NOI, the interest rate that the bank is working with, and the amortization period, the team's lender is willing to loan them no more than $20.5 million. The second source of funds is from private equity investors who've committed $7.7 million. They've limited their investment to an amount that will give them an acceptable return. A larger investment would yield a lower return rate, and they aren't willing to do that. Investors have many other investment options, including the stock market. The development team has worked to find other investment options that would bring more funds to the project and their capital stack, but this is where they've landed after working to cultivate investors for almost 2 years. The city and the agency have committed $1.84 million, and there is a gap of about $8.66 million. The agency is being asked to fill that gap. That is, it's a big gap. That's how you're going to get to cover the total development cost of the 38.7. An important metric for the lender and the investors to consider is the value of the building after it's constructed and fully occupied. It will cost $38.7 million to build, but its market value is a very different matter. The team's lender commissioned an appraisal of the building that appraised the value after it's been completed and has reached stabilized occupancy. The analysis is from an independent third party hired by the bank, and it ground truths all the assumptions going into the project, including the rents and the operating costs, and just to keep the bank comfortable with their loan. They've estimated the appraised value is more than 10% less than the cost to build the project. So given the existing costs of construction, the cost of borrowing, expected return to equity to the investors, and the income restricted rents and the achievable market rate rents, this project needs more public investment for it to move forward. I'm going to hand it back to Amanda to go over how this fits into the downtown urban renewal plan and our next steps.
So a little bit of context of how this request fits into the district. As you recall, Council's 2023 amendment to the Downtown Urban Renewal Plan raised the maximum indebtedness or spending limit by $50 million. This table shows the estimated allocation for each of the 3 buckets of eligible activities and how much has been spent or allocated in each. While some spending has occurred, most notably in the acquisition of the North Butterfly Lot property and allocating funds for the Downtown Housing Fee Assistance Program, the bulk of the funds remain available. Furthermore, as discussed in 2023, any of the urban renewal funds can be spent in any of these categories. The 2023 estimates were only for planning purposes. Currently, we estimate that $29.3 million is available for allocation, and this is based on actual spending and some estimated future commitments. If the funding is approved today, an estimated $20.7 million would remain available. Allocating additional funding to 1059 Willamette is an eligible activity in the plan, and it would fall under Section 600C, which is the bucket for emerging projects directed or initiated by the agency board. If the agency board approves the funding today, council will need to approve revisions to the disposition and development agreement terms, or DDA terms. First, the financial assistance term would need to be revised to account for the funding increase. And then we'd also ask council to consider a brief extension to the closing date. As a reminder, council's January vote extended the closing deadline to August 3rd. Based on commitments made by their equity investor and lender, the developer is working to close on the project and start construction in August. If the funding's approved, we'll be working diligently with the development team to complete the final pieces needed to close on the deal and start construction as soon as feasible. The request today is for council to extend closing by 2 months as a buffer, and because no other extensions are allowed under the current agreement. As a reminder, today you'll be considering both the funding request and revised terms. If the agency board chooses not to approve the funding request, the developer has stated that they would not be able to move forward with the project as approved, and we would come back to you to discuss where to go from here. There are a few paths forward, but because we used federal CDBG dollars to acquire the site, we must implement a project with at least half the units affordable to at least 80% of area median income. It's likely any developer will face similar headwinds if pursuing a mixed income project, and pivoting to an all-affordable project would join a very highly competitive queue for state funding. With that, we'll hand it back to the mayor and are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, staff, for that presentation. I will now open up the floor for council discussion, and I have Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Groves in the queue.
Yeah, thanks. I think housing and homelessness are the biggest problems facing the city council and the city, for that matter. And I've said many times, homelessness is the symptom. The cause is lack of affordable housing, lack of mental health programs and funding, lack of substance abuse programs and funding. And what we get is substance abuse, or we get is homeless people. One of those from that mix. So place where we can do the most is in the affordable housing part. And we desperately need more affordable housing. So this is a very unique project in my history of the city, in that it combines affordable housing with market rate housing. I don't know if there's any projects that even have done that before. No. And I've been asking for several years, how many affordable housing units do we get from the market that we don't subsidize, unsubsidized ones? The answer is 0. So we only get affordable housing that is subsidized. And so if we want affordable housing, we need to pay for it. So if we need more affordable housing, URD, Urban Renewal District dollars seems like an appropriate use. That's why we allocated it for housing. And without it, as they said, we'll get 0 affordable housing units, and we'll get all market-based units. And that's a bad outcome for me. I think it's a good project. It'll put more eyes downtown, which is what we've been talking about for years. Affordable housing in that 60 to 80% AMI. There's not many, if any, projects that actually are in that space. It has a 35-year affordable housing term, which is really great, up from 20. It's the only MUPTI I've ever voted for because of that. The 10 units for women's space, the Earth Advantage building, all electric, is great. It's pet friendly. I think those are all make it a really good project, and it's in a really interesting place. And so, yes, costs have gone up. If we wait, they're only going to go up more, and it's only going to get worse. So while I pushed for a majority of funds from the URD to go towards housing, and while I'm still not a fan of urban renewal districts, I'm certainly in favor of using existing downtown urban renewal dollars for this purpose.
Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much, staff, for the presentation. Like Councilor Zelenka, I support this project for a number of reasons. I'm actually happy that it's going to be prevailed wage job. I mean, that's good for labor, good for our community. I'm curious about this funding stack. I'm looking at 2 areas, the bank loan and the private equity investments. I know there's an all-women-led financial group that's involved in this out of New York. Are they part of the private equity investment or the bank?
They're part of, sorry. They're part of that private equity.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's something I think we should all understand what this is. They are pushing for green construction. They are pushing for, they're taking less in the way of return on their investment dollars than others might agree to. And they're trying to help with affordable housing, which I agree also with Councilor Zelenka, that, our 2 biggest issues are housing and homelessness, or 2 of our biggest issues anyway. Depends on the day, which is the biggest, but this kind of speaks to all those. Plus, our downtown needs a spark like this in order to incent more development. And all you have to do is look at our downtown and look at some of the things that have been going on down there with behavioral issues, but then also look at that tax map that we circulate around that shows how much the downtown carries in the way of property tax for our entire community. There's just, to me, of course, I hate spending more money like everybody does, and I hate seeing the starting date pushed back even further. But at the same time, that's the cost of doing business these days. And this isn't going to get built on its own. We've got a great developer in Mark Mixus, local developer who lives here. They'll have to drive by the building every day. I like that because I think we don't end up with some of the other projects we've had. So I'm a yes on this, and let's get it going. Thank you.
Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Everything my colleague said. Thank you, staff, for the work. Back in 2023, I was quoted as applauding. This is via KLCC, if memory serves. Applauding the mixed-use, affordable housing and market rate approach. It is easy for me to say. I cannot wait not only to see cranes in the air, but to see the 130-plus homes right on a transit line right in the heart of our downtown. Checking all the boxes, as colleagues have mentioned, the pet amenities, all electric, way to lead with our values, the 10 units for the Hope and Safety Alliance for survivors of domestic violence, and, of course, the prevailing wage piece. I'm very excited about the labor element, and I'm curious, do we have, for urban renewal projects or for municipal projects more broadly, do we have a citywide PLA, a project labor agreement or community benefits agreement that allows for the city not only to pay these prevailing wages on projects like this, but to also embrace responsible labor practices, including but not limited to full family benefits, locally sourced materials, in preference to women and or minority-owned contractors?
Not have a system in place for the urban renewal district. What we do, the two aspects that we do that speak to what you're talking about, when we reach those thresholds, the projects pay prevailing wage, and so we comply with the state requirements on that. And then the City of Eugene, through the MUPTI program, does a lot of work with supporting minority, women-owned, emerging small businesses, and we have guidance that we offer through the city, and then that's also something that we expect from the developers, that they show us a plan of their hiring strategy, and then we document the different firms that they use.
So that's part of the MUPTI deal at present?
Yes.
That's great. I would love to see us amplify that even more, so thank you for that. It was mentioned that we could, quote, blend some of that request with a downtown loan, some of that $38.7 million. Could you expand on the downtown loan part, please?
We have a business loan program that was capitalized with urban renewal funds. It's been in part of the district for decades. And we're looking at a mix of tax increment from the district with some of the loan program, which then some of that would get repaid back to the loan program. So we don't know what that mix is, but it would allow us to have a slightly smaller permanent contribution, but it would just be a loan.
Okay, thank you. Also, it was mentioned after complete, quote, and I can't read my own writing, stable occupancy. What's the risk of it, and at what point, since it is a blend of market rate and affordable housing, at what point do the residents risk a change in ownership or a change in approach? Are they there? Is it a 10-year commitment? Is it a 20-year commitment? Is it 30 years? How long can this body say to our partners and to prospective residents who are 80% of AMI, who are roughly half of the tenants, of prospective tenants, that you're locked in, that we want you to live here, and we're not going to pull the rug out from under you a decade down the road?
The investment team, their business model is on a 5-year time horizon. However, the project would have, I believe it's tied into the deed, a 35-year commitment to those income qualified units. When we issued the RFP, we asked for a 20-year commitment for the income qualified, but this team came back with a proposal to commit to 35 years, and it would be written into the deed, and we'd do an annual checkup on the rents to make sure that they're meeting that goal.
Thank you for making that abundantly clear. I think we should be leading with that as well. That's a phenomenal piece. I appreciate the team's work on this, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic about supporting this additional investment.
Councillor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. So first I want to thank staff and the developers and the community members and everyone who has stuck with this project for so long. I'm sure, like many of you, I have been walking past this building for many years, imagining how it could be so much better in the future. This project is an amazing way for us to invest in our community, into people, and into our downtown. And while having a larger price tag is not always our favorite thing, because we like to spread money around, if I'm going to put money towards something that's going to matter in this community, I feel like this is one of those projects that reflects the values of Eugene, reflects the values that this council stands for and has made a commitment to. So I'm really glad to hear that my colleagues who have spoken already also see the value in this project and want to see it through to its completion. here in our community. My only question is, it sounds like this loan mix thing is going to happen automatically, or do we need to give you some kind of direction in our motion?
It won't happen automatically, but nothing will happen automatically. It'll be a lot of analysis back and forth to make sure we're not risking the loan program too much, and yet we want to minimize how much TIF we use as well for the reason, so we can spread it around in the future. But that would be on the staff side, and you won't have to make any recommendation on that.
Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you. Thank you for wording that a little better. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Counselor Kaczynski and then Counselor Clark, and then I'll turn to Counselor Leach to put a motion forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both to the staff team who is there now, who has been working very hard on this project, as well as the developer and everyone else who's been working very hard on this project. I will echo what many of my colleagues said about the value and sort of how exciting this project is. I do have a couple of questions about the additional money. I will say that I feel like this is a substantial increase in what was expected to be the Eugene contribution for this project. And I'm a little worried that because this is coming at the space at the end of the game, we're kind of in this place where we need to invest this, or else this is gonna fail, and not really having the conversation about, is this the most efficient and best way to invest this money? And so one of the things I wanted to ask about is there a possibility to extend the term by which the housing that is set aside to be income limited affordable housing would need to stay that way? I know that you said we had asked for 20, it's now 35. We are there. The project is now asking for a substantially more increased financial contribution from taxpayer dollars, and wanting to have that explicit taxpayer benefit last longer in conjunction with that seems reasonable.
I think the agreement with the team so far has been 35 years, and so it would be changing the ground rules with which we've agreed to already. Although anything is possible. However, in 35 years, in the year 2060, the building will have had 35 years of wear and tear on it, which means it won't be able to achieve top of the market rents because it'll be an old building unless they substantially reinvest to renovate it. And so it's very likely that this building will be offering more affordable rents to the middle of the market in 2060 just by virtue of its age.
I will add
Thank
that
you.
other affordable housing tools, like those available at the state, do require an affordability between the 30 and 60-year range. So I would say it's on the table of feasibility, in the range of feasibility, to do an increase if that's where you want it to go.
Okay, thank you. I had a second question. In one of the slides, you indicated, I think it was slide 12, that this would be listed as, or sort of go into the emerging projects urban renewal bucket. Why wouldn't it be the housing bucket?
That is a good question. So the way the plan is outlined, we had 3 buckets: housing, physical improvements to address safety and comfort, and then an emerging projects bucket. So the housing specifically makes eligible 2 pieces. So it's a development fee assistance, and so using urban renewal dollars to pay for things like SDCs and permits. And then the second activity was real property acquisition and disposition. So it's very limited activities under the housing bucket. And then this emerging projects bucket was kind of where we put all the other things that the agency board might be interested in seeing, but wanted to be sure to have multiple steps and have a chance to vet any requests that came through. And so within that bucket is the other development support in anticipation that there could be projects that would need financial support beyond just the SDCs and permits.
Thank you. I guess I I very much want to see this project be completed. I am concerned about the amount of this ask. I know that this was described as a pilot for trying to do mixed income where you have both affordable and market rate in the same building. I do want to see this project move forward, but I do think we should take some time with what are some of the lessons we learned from this pilot, because I feel like this pilot ended up being substantially more expensive and substantially more less able to move forward than I think we had hoped. And that's going to come up, I think, if we are proposing or looking at similar projects in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Clark and then Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree considerably with several of the comments of many of my colleagues here at the table. A couple of years ago, a few years ago now, when I voted to expand the downtown urban renewal district, this is the reason, right here, for us to build more housing and make it more affordable to people in our community. And that's what this will do. And I can't vote yes fast enough on this particular question. I think it is a very, very good use. Yes, it's more taxpayer dollars, but there's a taxpayer benefit. There's a community benefit to people who are going to finally have something in our downtown core they could rent and live in that's more affordable. More affordable housing downtown hasn't been built in a very, very long time. And it's high time we get busy doing more of it, in my opinion. So thank you very much for all the hard work.
I'll now turn to Agency President Leach to put a motion forward.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the use of up to $8.66 million of additional downtown urban renewal tax increment funds to support the 1059 Willamette project.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. All in favor, councilors, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All opposed is 0, and the motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you. I now close the June 22nd, 2026 Urban Renewal Agency meeting and call the June 22nd, 2026 City Council work session to order. And I will turn back to the city manager to introduce this item, which is the continued work session on 1059 Willamette redevelopment and the revised terms.
So no introduction, that was done in my earlier comments.
Thank you so much, city manager. Any further discussion or questions following up from council? Seeing none, I will now turn to the council president to put a motion forward.
I move to approve the revised terms shown in strike-through and bold text in attachment A.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 0 opposed, and this motion passes unanimously with a vote of 8-0. Council, I knew we were pressed for time in moving through that work and a lot of important work today, but I want to just take a moment to applaud this body and also recognize this milestone, because as was discussed in the presentation from staff, this is an accomplishment that has been worked towards incrementally over not just years, but decades. We have talked for a very long time about wanting to see more workforce housing in our city center, wanting for there to be transit-oriented development in our community, wanting to see all-electric, dense urban buildings as a part of the fabric of our city, and wanting to see local teams and development partners with goals for our community that have to do with social benefits investing here. And it is incredibly exciting to see this project moving forward as an example. Certainly something to be learned from, but when I talked with my students at the University of Oregon all spring about the future of affordable housing, the things that this project accomplishes is what so many of them were wishing that we would see more of in the world. And it is very unusual, and it will be incredibly useful to this community and to other communities who are trying to address these same challenges in the years ahead. So thank you for your commitment and to holding to this vision over many years for our community broadly, for our downtown, for all the people who will get to live there as a result of this project's successful completion. With that, I'll say thank you, and that concludes our agenda for today. And I now close the June 22nd, 2026 City Council work session. Thank you. We are adjourned. Good evening and welcome to the June 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting remotely can do so by watching the live stream on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed on the City of Eugene's public webcasts and meetings materials webpage. Tonight's meeting will include a public comment period, and if you wish to speak, please fill out a request to speak form on our public webcasts and meetings materials webpage or at the entrance to this room. We will accept request forms until 7:35 p.m., and these forms will be used to generate the order of speakers and accurately enter speakers' names into the record. The public comment period will be limited to 90 minutes or conclude by 10 p.m. this evening, whichever occurs first. And if the number of speakers exceeds the time that we have allotted, we encourage speakers to consider abbreviating their remarks so that the maximum number of speakers can be heard. For those joining the meeting remotely, you are welcome to email your comments to the City Council, and that is, of course, true of anyone giving public comment. And as a reminder, Council's meeting rules of conduct apply to all attendees, both in the chambers and in the lobby, and include no flags, signs, loud or disruptive language, noise, or conduct that obstructs the business of the Council. Please keep the room quiet and respectful for all speakers and address your comments to the Mayor and Council. You are welcome to wave your hands in silent support. We encourage all those who are ill to join our meetings remotely rather than in person, and we have masks available in the lobby if you need one. And in case of a medical emergency, an automated external defibrillator, an AED, is located on the counter behind the staff on the west side of this room. And emergency exits are through the double doors located at the back of the room and the double doors located at the front of the room. The doors to the patio can also be used as needed. And with that, I call the June 22nd, 2026 meeting of the Eugene City Council to order. We'll begin this evening with a land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. This land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and to honor Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The City of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Alihi. Kalapuya descendants are the citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon, and they continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. Our first item on tonight's agenda, in recognition of the 4th of July and Independence holiday, is the Pledge of Allegiance, which we will open tonight's meeting with. To lead us in the pledge this evening, we are joined by Susan Ban and Morgan Vierheller of the League of Women Voters of Eugene. The League was formed in 1939 with Miss Genevieve Turnip Speed as president. In 1969, the Eugene and Springfield chapters merged, and in 1984, they adopted the name of LWV of Lane County, League of Women Voters of Lane County. The League of Women Voters of Lane County currently has 308 local members, and the League is an all-volunteer, grassroots, nonpartisan political organization. We are part of a large network. League of Women Voters is part of a large network of League of Women Voters in Oregon and the National League of Women Voters across the United States. Susan and Morgan, would you like me to introduce you both, or would you like to introduce yourselves? I would love to. Thank you for that opportunity. Susan Ban is the co-vice president of the League of Women Voters of Lane County. She joined the League after retiring in 2025, and she appreciates that the League's mission to educate, engage, and empower voters to preserve and to promote democracy. Prior to her retirement, she worked for 35 years in Lane County's human services programs, first at the nonprofit Shelter Care, and later in the Lane County Rent Assistance Program. Welcome, Susan. Morgan Vierheller is the chair of the Advocacy Committee of the League of Women Voters of Lane County, and Morgan joined the League in 2024 and focuses on developing and advocating for policy issues based on League principles and positions. The League conducts advocacy on issues only after thorough study and research, followed by member consensus. And the League never takes positions on candidates or political parties. Morgan also taught civics in high school to juniors for 20 years. Thank you so much for that work. And I will now ask you to lead us in the pledge and ask everyone to stand. Yes. Who are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
This evening, as we prepare for the July 4th holiday, thank you, everyone, the League will also recite for us the Declaration of Independence. Though high school juniors have heard this recently, many others have not, and we appreciate the opportunity for this refresher.
Thank you, and I appreciate your patience because it's not limited in words.
We were asked to read the whole thing, so
Okay.
please indulge us.
Great.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes for which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness.
Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, and all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. And to prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused to assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people will relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative households houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judicial powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us.
For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world.
For imposing taxes on us without consent.
For depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of a trial by jury.
For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit the instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored us to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence, and they too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare
that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And I give you thanks for listening to all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan and Morgan, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for joining us this evening. That concludes our first agenda item. And our second item on tonight's agenda is committee reports and items of interest. I'll now open the floor to council for committee reports and items. Councilors? Reports, items of interest? Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Refused laws that benefit the public good. Fatiguing into compliance, invasions of the rights of the people, obstructing the laws of the naturalization of foreigners, obstructing the administration of justice, cutting off our trade across the world. Sent hither swarms of swarms of officers to harass and to harass our citizens and sending armies without the consent of Congress. Thank you for the history of repeated injustices. It's sad to say that history is repeating, or history repeats. So I thank you so much for sharing such a powerful document. I attended Mayor Juneteenth on Friday and was wowed by the energy. It's great to see you there. Thank you for reading the powerful proclamation. What a great turnout. Inspiring words that were shared at the farmers market at the Juneteenth celebration. I also ran into a volunteer from Green Hill Humane Society at the Juneteenth celebration who remembered Vince, my dog, from when he was brought in way back in March. Vince was there for 150 days. And this volunteer remembers taking him out on the Pet of the Week, and the whole staff were rooting for him, and he was elated to hear of Vince's many adventures at Camp Keating. We love our little puppers, and we're thrilled to make that connection. This Saturday, Mayor, I will be attending the first ever Eugene Pride celebration at the Lane Event Center. I'm thrilled. Second, thank you. I was not at last year's. I was out of town, so it's the first for me. Sorry. I'm thrilled that our Pride is now in Pride Month. That's cool. And while I'm saddened there's not a rally or march, I understand the complications, and I have nothing but great things to say about city staff who have been so supportive of the Pride effort to ensure we have a peaceful, well-orchestrated Pride event. I'll see you this Saturday at the Lane Event Center. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you too for that. That was well done. It was my idea that we have this read every year on an annual basis. And I've heard it many times, none better than what you guys just did. Until this year, I thought this was kind of an ancient document without much relevance to what's happening. And I was struck when I was listening to it, unfortunately, how relevant those words are today that our founding fathers put forth 250 years ago. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a circumstance where history is trying to repeat itself, but hopefully it will not.
Thank you, Council. I have just a few items that I want to raise from a couple of conversations. Two of them related to our recent Poverty and Homelessness Board meetings. I sit as a part of that board and also have joined two subcommittees, one on cross-sector collaboration and also another on advocacy. And wanted to highlight a couple of things, and certainly the first of which connects to the work session that this council just held. And this is a few summary remarks from a recent update that our City of Eugene staff gave to the Poverty and Homelessness Board. One of those updates is just a tally, sort of current tracking and metrics that our current City of Eugene affordable housing pipeline, there are currently 873, almost 900 units from 14 different developments, funded with a mix of local system development charge exemptions, city fee assistance, local affordable housing trust fund contributions, federal entitlement home funds, and City of Eugene land banking sites, almost 900 units of affordable housing. I wanted to highlight this because presently this year and looking into next year, we are accomplishing something that has been a goal for a long time, which is significantly increasing the number of affordable housing units that we are constructing in our community. There are 493 affordable housing units that are currently under construction across 6 developments, and 329 affordable housing units that are seeking financing to begin construction across 7 other proposals. This is really good news for a community that is doing everything that we can with the resources we have available and some really excellent staff alignment with the state resources that we're able to access to deliver housing for our community that is affordable across a whole variety of different projects. And I just want to be sure to highlight and thank that staff working on affordable housing, our grants management team, our team leading the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but also our community development and planning team, because they're doing a lot of work. And it is great when we can update our Poverty and Homelessness Board on the ways in which we are building housing that is in fact the solution to the experience of homelessness. In our more recent Poverty and Homelessness Board meeting, we unfortunately received another, I'll call it sort of salvo or wave of challenging information that relates to the changes in how our federal government is positioning itself, both through housing and urban development, through HUD, and through Health and Human Services. And the two shifts that are similar, but through different agencies, are shifts towards work requirements and time, volunteer time or work requirements to qualify for certain types of housing, and also work requirements to qualify for Medicaid. So one of those sets of requirements is through HUD, the other is through Health and Human Services, 2 different federal agencies, but both operating, it appears, with not a lot of information, or certainly with not a lot of concern for consequences when establishing 40 hours of new work requirements related to certain types of housing where that seems quite unlikely to be attainable. It does present a particular type of challenge to our community, and I just wanted to flag it because this is important work that we are doing across jurisdictions, among jurisdictions, to try to mitigate these newly created harms in our community. Very quickly, lastly, I just wanted to share that this week, right now, beginning today, we are welcoming to the City of Eugene a group of scientists who are visiting from the country of Nepal. And some of you might remember that in February, I was able to share a really fantastic connection between our zebrafish facilities and sciences work at the University of Oregon. We are the scientific home of the zebrafish, which is the vertebrae that so much of genetic study is based upon. And Nepal is one of the few wild homes of that species. And this week, we are welcoming scientists to the university for essentially a mini symposia on wild zebrafish. I'll have an opportunity to meet with them later this week. And this is a really wonderful connection to the history of innovative life sciences work that is central to innovation in our community and is a wonderful connection to the Life Sciences Task Force that I've been asked to join by Senator Wyden and Representative Haifam, looking at that sector specifically and its future within our community. So welcome to our visiting scientists and partners, both from Nepal and from Duke University, and thank you to our University of Oregon scientists for opening the doors and setting out that welcome mat so clearly. With that, this concludes our second agenda item. And we will move on to our third agenda item this evening, which is consent calendar 1, approval of the City Council minutes and approval of the City Council tentative agenda. If there are no questions from Council, I'll turn to the Council President to put a motion forward.
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion from Council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes or raise your hands. And I see a vote of 8-0, and the motion passes. Thank you. That concludes our third agenda item. The fourth agenda item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing and action on a resolution adopting the city's 2025 to 2027 biennium second supplemental budget, making appropriations for the city of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2027. City Manager Haruyama, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the City Council to receive public input on the city's second supplemental budget for the 2025-2027 biennium. The supplemental budget recognizes new revenue and grant-supported appropriations and authorizes other unanticipated changes in legal appropriations. Changes in the general fund includes funding for strategic council-directed investments, including the Court of Record implementation, repurposing existing resources to advance new economic development initiatives, and a pilot for wheelchair-accessible taxi options, and creating savings from budget reductions and other revenue-backed and grant-supported appropriations. Non-general fund appropriations primarily consist of one-time items that are supported by existing resources or new revenues, grant-supported appropriations, and administrative adjustments. This request this evening is to authorize all necessary legal appropriations, and staff are available to answer questions.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing. And staff, can you please share a list of speakers on the screen and announce the first speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. One note, we have the same speaker for the 4 public hearings, so I will read the instructions once because I think they will get it. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood if known before beginning your comments. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that use of profanity is not permitted. Our speaker for this first public hearing is Stefan Streck.
Righteous Word, City Council. My name is Stefan Streck, and I am grateful to be so blessed to have your attention tonight. Thank you for reserving this time. I am not at all surprised that I'm the only person who stood up to give some advice and commentary on the new budget, because it is a complete catastrophe. Everybody who works in the city managing this has completely failed, again. And that's disappointing, because there is so much money from so many good people who work so hard that is wasted, completely wasted, on worthless projects that do nothing but burn the taxpayers' cash. So maybe we have a moment of silence to appreciate that. Thank you. And I do encourage other people who want to mention their thoughts. You're all allowed to sign up and speak at your allotted time. I don't have some authority granted from God to be the only person who raises these issues, even though it might look that way. So please, raise these issues more regularly, and there is so much that can be done with $800 million. How come the potholes keep getting bigger? How come more accidents keep happening? How come children and elderly people go homeless and hungry and dying in the streets of this city in what's supposed to be the wealthiest and most privileged country in the world? Is it because the people who are placed in their positions of authority are incompetent? I suspect there's a chance. And this happens because the people who finance these elections do not want competent people to stand up, as anyone is able and empowered to do by signing up on the list with the digital sheet. I want to explain. You need to keep signing up for each individual speaking time, as I did, or you can check each box on the paper form. And I hope that more people speak up next time, because the budget is mismanaged again.
Thank you, Stefan. Mayor, that was our final speaker for the first topic.
Did I sit down, or should I pull up a chair?
I now close the public
You can sit,
hearing.
Stefan.
Are there any questions or comments from City Council? Please be seated.
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilor Keating.
When we have public hearings and we receive testimony, is the testimony to be germane to the thing we're discussing?
Yes, yes.
Right. So
Generally speaking.
someone can't get up and recite Cat in the Hat, right? They have to like.
Unless they're able to draw a connection to our supplemental budget, correct.
Okay, thank you. I would submit that the previous testimony didn't make that connection, and I would ask that anyone who's going to provide testimony at a public hearing about a subject provide testimony on this very subject that we've allotted time. It's not an open mic night, is what I'm trying to get at. Is that an accurate assessment or a reasonable request?
The public hearings are to speak on the item of which the hearing is the subject. So yes, but the, yes, correct.
If there are no other questions from council, I'll now turn to the council president to put a motion forward.
I move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget, making appropriations for the City of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. And Councilor Clark, I can see your vote on my screen, though it's not visible in the room. The motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you, and that concludes our fourth agenda item. The fifth item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing and action on a resolution determining, levying, and categorizing the annual ad valorem property tax levy of the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027. City Manager, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the council to receive public input on a resolution determining the amount of property tax revenue to be collected for the city for fiscal year 2027. Approval is requested tonight to comply with state requirements. Staff's available to answer questions.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing, and staff, I believe you've indicated that we have just one speaker and previously shared the instructions. Would you please ask them to come forward?
Stefan Streck, please come on up.
Well, City Council, my name is Stefan Streck, and I'm incredibly pleased and honored to be here tonight. Thank you for calling me forward to speak on this tax levy. I strongly object to this tax levy. It is absolutely inappropriate that people keep leeching money from people who give so much and receive so little. A land acknowledgement for the taxpayers who consistently are disappointed by their trust being abused from officials who do not care about those that they are supposed to represent. When the budget is $800 million, you shouldn't have to keep asking for money. I don't think it's super complicated to just, bless you, nail that down and just be like, hey, $800 million. Maybe we should stop hiring six-figure executives. Maybe the new city manager would like to offer a rescindment of her salary to acknowledge how it could go to use for the poor, the starving, the hungry, the children of this city. Possibly. I'd like to raise that proposal. Maybe other people who receive so much money from the city, six-figure salaries, could get together and form a fund that could be used for public benefit instead of their private enrichment for jobs that are actually pretty easy. If you guys, you've got my number. You can just call me, and then I wouldn't have to keep coming down here so often. And be like, hey, Mr. Strick, we've got to balance these numbers. And I'll be like, oh, whoa, you just moved the money from one account to the other, and you actually spend it on what you're supposed to. Instead of buying $800 toilet seats, how much did that toilet cost downtown? What was that, $500,000? And it's not even usable most of the time. So maybe use the money you've got effectively before asking for more money. And I think that's a pretty reasonable suggestion because you have more than enough money. This tax is unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Mayor, that was our final speaker for the second hearing.
I now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the City Council? Seeing none, I'll turn to the Council President to put a motion forward.
I move to approve a resolution determining, levying, and categorizing the annual ad valorem property tax levy for the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Any discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. Councilor Leach and Councilor Krasinski, I see you voting in the affirmative, and the motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you. I now close the June 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting and call the June 22nd, 2026 Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order. And the sixth item on tonight's agenda is the URA public hearing in action, a resolution adopting the Urban Renewal Agency's, the URA's, 2025 to 2027 biennium second supplemental budget, making appropriations for the URA of the City of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2027. Agency Director Hariyama, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the agency board to receive public input on the Urban Renewal Agency's second supplemental budget for the 2025-2027 biennium. The supplemental budget includes $8.8 million in funds to support housing development in the downtown district at 1059 Willamette, using $6 million in interagency loan from the city's Fleet Services Fund and $2.6 million in existing tax increment funds to provide budget appropriations for the direction provided by the agency board earlier this evening. The supplemental budget also appropriates $3 million to support the development of Parcel 2 affordable housing development in the Riverfront District and other funds and other pre-development work in both districts. This action provides budget authority to implement previous agency board direction. Approval is requested this evening to authorize the necessary legal appropriations.
I now open the public hearing. Staff, I believe we still have just one speaker for this public hearing, and they have heard the instructions. Would you please invite them forward?
Stefan Streck, please come to the podium.
Once again, thank you, City Council. My name is Stefan Streck, and I am very pleased to speak on the urban renewal issue that's coming up today. Now, you might be shocked and surprised to know that not too far away, there's a pretty big building on some prime real estate, which the Urban Renewal Project sold for $1 to private developers. Again, that's a bad deal. Urban renewal is a scam that takes public property and funnels it to private developers for their own enrichment at taxpayer expense. This happens in metropolitans across the United States, and it's nothing more than a scam to steal from taxpayers. So it's great that we have this moment for some reflection. Now, if $1 is a bad deal to sell prime riverfront property, is paying someone $6 million to take downtown real estate a better deal? So on one hand, you've got $1, and the other hand, you've got negative $6 million. The deals before were bad. This deal is even worse. I think you could put this math towards the average, like, fourth grader. And they would say, hey, wait a second, what are these adults doing? You're going to pay someone $6 million to take a large building in downtown in a, arguably one of the most critical intersections in the city, 11th and Willamette. Man, who thought of that? The person who's getting the building and the $6 million, probably. And that's a pretty sweet deal for them, but it's absolutely an injustice to the taxpayers. Seriously. This is a scam. These people go like locusts from town to town looking for uneducated suckers who will think it's a good idea to just fork over $6 million so you can take some private property. $1 is a bad deal. Negative $6 million is so much worse, it's astounding that more people haven't signed up to speak up on this. And I urge more people to speak up.
Thank you, Stefan. Your time. Mayor, that was our final speaker for this third hearing.
Thank you, staff. I now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from City Council? Seeing none, I'll turn to the agency president to put a motion forward.
I move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget, making appropriations for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2027.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. Councilor Leach and Councilor Krasinski, I see you voting in the affirmative, and the motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you. That concludes our sixth agenda item. And our seventh item on tonight's agenda is the URA public hearing and action on the resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene declaring the amount of a tax to be certified for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027. Agency Director Haruyama, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the agency board to receive public input on a resolution declaring property tax to be collected for the Urban Renewal Agency for fiscal year 2027. Approval is requested tonight to comply with state requirements.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing, and staff, we have the one speaker, and they have received the instructions, so please ask them to come forward.
Stefan Streck, please come to the podium.
Once again, thank you, City Council. My name is Stefan Streck, and I am thrilled to be here to speak on the urban renewal issue. This is, as I've said before, completely inappropriate. And I believe that more people see that and recognize that. And it can be sometimes confusing to organize these complex public issues like whether stealing is wrong, but I think that the majority of people, the vast majority, the silent majority, is ready to speak up. Bless you. we can do so much more with the property that this city has than fork it over to private developers. Why does the city have to supplement its budget by taking from future generations who should be able to benefit from the wealth of this city? Instead, we have pet projects. We have city councilors who misunderstand the concept of the First Amendment Bill of Rights, which does allow people to express themselves, even if it's in a roundabout way, to come back to the issue of urban development and how money should actually be applied towards making things better, instead of just enriching the financiers who make donations to political campaigns. This is a common issue that's happening and has been happening across the country for decades. Now, today, I'm the only person who's speaking on this issue and several other issues, but it's important to note, democracy has one important thing in common with communism. The system only works if everyone participates. So, I do encourage everyone to participate on these issues because the alternative is that a different system is applied, where people who are fascists, who are funded by fascists, make poor decisions that punch down at the poor people and the taxpayers who deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Mayor, that was our final speaker for this fourth hearing.
Thank you, staff. I now close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from City Council? Seeing none, I will turn to the agency president to put a motion forward.
I move to approve a resolution declaring the amount of tax to be certified for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, we will now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. Councilor Krasinski and Councilor Leach, I see you voting in the affirmative, and the motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you all. I now close the June 22nd, 2026 Urban Renewal Agency meeting and reconvene the June 22nd, 2026 meeting of the Eugene City Council. Now we will turn to City Manager Hariyama to introduce our next agenda item this evening, which is an action on granting an exemption from the application of Section 6.200 of the Eugene Code 1971 and providing for a sunset date.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed ordinance would provide a 5-year exemption from Eugene Code 6.200, permitting members of the River to Ridges Partnership, including the Bureau of Land Management, the Nature Conservancy, and city staff to continue conducting prescribed burning operations up to 300 acres per year within Eugene city limits. This exemption would remain in effect through December 31st, 2030.
Thank you. If there are no questions from council, turn to the council president to put a motion forward.
I move to approve the ordinance as Attachment A to this AIS, granting an exemption from the application of Section 6.200 of the Eugene Code 1971 and providing a sunset date.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. We received a presentation at our last Lane Regional Air Protection Agency around this very matter and saw a drone display of a prescribed burn, and it was impressed upon all of us. There was consensus around the table how smart this policy is, how critical it is to extend it, especially as we rapidly turn into a most dangerous wildfire season. The former fire chief at the other end of the dais could speak far better than I can about this matter, but I just want to double down and underscore my enthusiasm for extending this, this prescribed burn request.
Thank you, council. I'll now take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. Councilor Krasinski and Councilor Leach, I see you voting in the affirmative, and the motion passes with a vote of 8-0. Thank you, and that concludes our 8th agenda item this evening. The last item on tonight's agenda is the public comment period. Public comment period is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. Staff, can you please share a list and the number of speakers that signed up to speak by 7:35 p.m. and announce the first speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 23 speakers signed up for public comment. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. When you are announced as the next speaker, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that the use of profanity is not permitted. Our first speakers this evening are Nayeli Cisneros, followed by Stefan Streck.
I'm sorry for interrupting. If you please bring the microphone closer to your mouth, people will be able to hear you. Thank you.
That good right there? Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and neighbors. My name is Nayeli Diana Cisneros, and I'm here today to bring awareness to the growing pattern of harassment and intimidation happening towards our immigrant community. It has been happening in different forms, distinct ways, in different places to different people. For me personally, has been in person while canvassing for signatures for a nonprofit I was a founder of. I was asked if I was legal or if I was permitted to create my own nonprofit. They yelled at me and told me that they would never support me because I was just here taking jobs. It has been online in my comments under pictures of me and my family, people telling me directly that me and my family should pack up and go back to our country, and some other profanity that I'm gonna skip. For a community member who owns his own construction company, it was in the form of a very small note on his windshield that carried an enormous weight. On one side, the number to the ICE tip line, and on the other side, one word in all capitals, run. These are not isolated incidents. These are part of a growing pattern of intimidation, and many are too afraid to report it to the EPD or do not believe that it will lead to any meaningful protection for us. I want to be clear of some things that are often suggested in this as a response. People are already doing everything in their power to avoid these situations. We're already doing everything legal, non-confrontational, available to us. We report it to people, coordinators, officials, block people on social media. We avoid going to certain places in town known to be less than friendly to those of us with more melanated skin or accents. We stay silent to prevent escalation, but the pattern continues and it escalates, which leads me to the questions that bring me here today. What consequences actually exist for people engaging in this type of harassment and intimidation in our community? What resources exist for families who are threatened but do not know where to turn or do not know how to trust that the reporting will lead to change? What is the city doing right now to address harassment of our immigrant families by private individuals? What is the city doing to ensure repeated harassment that leads to meaningful accountability rather than being absorbed quietly by us that are already fearful in our communities? If possible, I would also respectfully request a written response outlining current policies, available resources.
Thank you, Nayeli. Our next speakers are Stefan Streck, followed by Dylan Cianci.
Thank you kindly. I appreciate the time that everyone has to join these meetings. My name is Stefan Streck, and I am thrilled to be part of the public commentary. Now, it's been an interesting 10 years looking back on the progress that this city has made, because there has been so much opportunity to make real impact, real change, and real progress. And yet, things don't seem to be getting better. I was just enjoying a meal the other day, and a homeless guy shuffled up to the diner I was at and sat down at the counter and just was staring at the wall with his back to me. And, you know, it's someone I recognized. And I know a lot of people in this town. I used to live down on 12th and Ferry Street, and I would constantly see the worst, most destitute situations that people were in. People that were drinking all day from sunup to sundown, people that were passed out in the street with needles in their arms, people fighting, people that were literally just withering away in the sun like raisins. And it's absolutely miserable to see that one of those same people who I recognize, I used to see this guy every single day with his friends drinking outside my place, and I'd just literally have to go out there and browbeat them because I was a minimum wage worker. I was a student. I needed to sleep. I needed to get my rent paid so that way I wouldn't become one of them on the street with nothing but alcohol and the glare of the sun. So how come there's so much money going around in this city for so long from so many organizations that say they're there to help? And then this person, 10 years later, still is in the exact same position or worse. This guy in front of me was basically just, you know, he couldn't do anything. So I bought him some fries and a Pepsi. His name's Jeff. He's not that bad of a guy. So if I can make a difference with what I've got, how come the rest of you don't?
Thank you, Stefan. Our next speakers are Dylan Cianci, followed by Tim Lewis.
I really, when I was signing up on the website, I totally thought about doing what he was going to do, and I was like, that's such a jerk move. So I hope you all know that I was very polite, and I only signed up for public comment because I didn't do the reading, because no one actually does the reading. They're really good readings. I would if I had the time. One of the things that I did find while doing the reading is that when you say affordable apartment, I think it would really help us if you would be honest about what you mean by affordable. Affordable to me means $400, and these things are going to be more like $1,000. And I understand that that is how the market works. But I think it would help to be honest about it. There is, you know, I've talked about public housing before, doing things like they do in Vienna. These are places that are, like Eugene, have a huge amount of, like, tourist population. So you're trying to have people who can, like, work at all the Starbucks and the cute little cafes and the thriving downtown you want to have. You can only do that if somebody's able to not have a car and, like, live above those places. And it's like, so we need more public investment in it. What if we just skipped the middleman and made it public housing? I really don't feel like investors making 12% or whatever off of a building. Maybe I'm just a communist with dyscalculia, but I don't care if it's not going to make money fast enough, you know? Is it not enough that we have the people who know how to do the work and we have the need? It just, you know, it frustrates me because Stefan makes a lot of points and he's mad about a lot of the same things that I'm mad about. But I just, you know, there is another way, but it's big, scary socialism. So it's going to take us a while to make that happen. While I have your attention, I also live in that neighborhood. I would like to see the traffic on Hilliard not be a highway through Hilliard. If you want to have density and, you know, college kids doing what they're going to do, like unless you want to have a riot called every time there's a football game, I think moving that traffic somewhere else will do good things for the people of Eugene. And that is everything I had on my notes. Thank you for your time. Good night, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Dylan. Our next speakers are Tim Lewis, followed by Linda Kelly.
Glasses on, right? I got a call the other day from Neighbors Feeding Neighbors. They feed the homeless folks down in Washington Jefferson Park. It was 2 days ago. They said there was a problem down there. So I went down there with my camera, because I do video production work, as many might know. And there was a guy who was parked in a van. And he had a axe, and he was sharpening his axe, and it was wiggling it back and forth right toward all the guests who were feeding there. So I was videotaping him, went up to ask what was up. He flipped out, screaming and yelling. He attacked me later on, and he wouldn't leave. We called 911. Someone called 911. The police rolled by a couple of times. He stayed there for 9 hours on that day. He stayed there for another 9 hours yesterday, and he's still at the park at Washington Jefferson Park on Washington Street between 4th and 5th. The reason he is there is because he hates homeless people, he hates women, he hates blacks, and he's still there. We called 911. Nothing has been done. What the police did do on the 2 days ago was come into the park and arrest a young woman in the park and took her away. But he was still there doing his nasty deeds, screaming and yelling at everybody. And I did some research on this guy, and this guy has quite the history. And if you want to see something a little bit even more harsher than the Siller body cam stuff, if this guy goes off and you don't do anything about it, you guys are in deep shit.
Please, audience, remember, no profanity. Our next speakers are Linda Kelly, followed by Sam Sanderson.
Mayor and City Councilors, my name is Linda Kelly. I live in Ward 1, and I volunteer with 350 Eugene. Last week, I was in a meeting where we were talking about our hopes for Eugene in the future. Many good ideas came forth. More bike paths, more frequent buses, community solar microgrids, U of O heated with a river-based heat pump, revitalizing downtown with affordable housing. Without parking, people without a car would be eligible for that site. This could also be done along any of the bus routes. The nice new project on 13th near Chambers would have been a perfect location that is within walking distance of a grade school and shopping. We now have the land banking monies to help create this. And there is an incredible amount of money saved if you don't put parking in with these affordable housing buildings, or any building for that matter. Another idea, a program for limited income homeowners. Permitting fees could be waived for all electric small ADUs with very low interest loans through our community credit union. These would be rented out at Lane County affordable housing rates for the length of the loan. Another idea, create a gas leaf blower buyback system run by the master recyclers. Gas leaf blowers are extremely polluting and are also very unhealthy for people using them. A number of these ideas would increase housing density without changing the flavor of our R1 neighborhoods. Housing density would benefit our transit system. Restricting parking and increasing parking fees in conjunction could also help with this. Some of these ideas would cost the city money. If we were to relocalize our yearly CRO offset monies that were an average of, I think, $52,000 a year for city projects, so they'd be vetted because they'd be city projects, we could make significant progress on some of these ideas without putting more strain on city budgets. Please keep the money here in Eugene for these projects and not send it out of state.
Thank you, Linda. Our next speakers are Sam Sanderson, followed by Pete Goldlust.
I come here today to share my immense disappointment with the city of Eugene and their absolute ineptitude in responding to the presence of ICE. Our city is in crisis. Our neighbors are being ripped from their homes and families, and you have given us excuse after excuse when you ask for your support. This is a blatant violation of human rights, and it is aided and abetted by our very own Eugene Police Department. We have video evidence of ICE vehicles parked in the EPD parking lot, and I have seen with my own eyes EPD vehicles parked in the federal building and officers going inside. The sheer number of EPD officers dispatched to patrol the federal building is staggering. This is not simply protection of federal property. This is blatant collaboration. I don't need to define what a sanctuary state is to get this point across. There is absolutely no reason to dispatch 2 separate riot suppressant vehicles and over 8 officers on bicycles to surveil a peaceful group of about 15 people. I have witnessed this firsthand. ICE would not be here kidnapping and brutalizing our neighbors if not for the support of EPD. When I marched in solidarity with 4J teachers on May Day, our protest was followed by an armored police truck and 6 officers on bicycles. I was walking next to educators pushing strollers. It has become clear to me that EPD serves not to protect our community, but to intimidate its citizens and silence their voices. These are the voices that elected each and every one of you. It is your responsibility to rein in this corrupt department and effect change when you can. We demand transparency from your office and the Eugene Police Department, immediate annulment of support from EPD to ICE, and Chief Skinner's resignation papers. Use your power to stand up for the people that pay your checks instead of sitting on your fucking hands.
Just a reminder that due to the wide age range of viewers that watch city council meetings, we ask that you not use profanity. Our next speakers are Pete Goldlust, followed by Tomoko Sekaguchi.
I'm also here in recognition of another proud news day for Chief Skinner. The City of Eugene and our tax-funded police department, of course, acquiesced to every request by the Trump regime to make way for their giant, massively expensive fence to prevent public access around the federal building. We supplied many hours of officer time, how much money and equipment, how much administration time for EPD to stand watch against our community members with your blessing to allow federal goons to put this monstrosity up quickly and efficiently. We paid for all that time assisting them because our city leaders would not stand up for our community against EPD's collaboration with DHS. Then just today, hopefully you've seen this already, in a case by local plaintiffs against the federal government, a federal judge held that the fence was a clear violation of First Amendment rights and of your constituents. You allowed our tax dollars to be used by our police department for that incursion into our rights because you, our elected officials, simply wouldn't refuse to help them. As reported by the Register Guard, the judge noted that the recent protests at the federal building have been peaceful, even though the fence wasn't up for most of this recent time. And the GSA only fenced off the courtyard area, not the exterior of the building, which also has breakable windows, suggesting the true purpose of the fence is to stifle speech among your constituents. Your police department enabled this fence to go up without an ounce of visible pushback. You are responsible for this misuse of public funds at the expense of our rights. This is just one of the latest egregious incidents by Chief Skinner to fail to uphold our community values and side with the thugs who try to divide and threaten us, and yet you stand by him. Also in the news today, just today, Eugene Pride Festival has canceled its usual march and rally. They are limited now to the fairgrounds only. This was necessitated, according to Pride, due to a host of abuses by EPD, leading to the organization's complete inability to have any trust in a department that only weeks ago had an officer, a veteran of 8 years on the force, caught on camera making overt, abusive, racist, and sexist comments. How was that officer dealt with? Was he fired? Did he lose his pension? No, he was able to resign on his own, keep his pension, and slink off to work as a cop somewhere else. No accountability from EPD, no accountability from the City of Eugene. Do better. Stand up for Pride. Stand up for your activist community.
Thank you, Pete. Our next speakers are Tomoko Sekaguchi, followed by Robert Brock.
Good evening. My name is Tomoko Sekiguchi, and I live in Ward 2. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Eugene Clean Energy Fund. First, I would like to thank Councilor Matt Keating for his climate leadership and for championing this effort. I have been involved in climate activism in Eugene for many years. The challenge was never a lack of good intention, but increasingly it has become clear that one of the biggest challenges is funding. The Eugene Clean Energy Fund could finally provide the dedicated funding needed by bringing at least $15 million annually to our community for climate and resilience projects. That's why when I first learned about the Eugene Clean Energy Fund, my reaction was, this is what we have been waiting for. This fund could help make real progress toward future livability in Eugene. It would invest in energy efficiency, renewable energy, climate resilience, workforce development, transportation solutions, and benefit our community. I would like to do all of these, it would do all of these things while prioritizing equity and justice. I have been surprised by the lack of public support from this council. This funding seems like the only way to meet our climate goals, creating good local jobs and increasing resilience and livability in Eugene at the same time. This initiative is well thought out, and we are not starting from scratch. Portland's Clean Energy Fund has generated roughly $200 million per year for climate and community investment, providing a roadmap that Eugene can learn from and improve on. So my question is, what are you waiting for? If not now, when? And if not this, what? The citizens of Eugene have begun hard work. We are gathering signatures, building support, imagining a better future. We are well on our way to qualifying for the ballot, and we've heard overwhelming support for the initiative in our community. I hope the council will continue to support the effort that moved us toward climate goals that we have already committed ourselves.
Thank you, Tomoko. Our next speakers are Robert Brock, followed by Eli Mazet.
Good evening. My name is Robert Brock. I'm a resident of the River Road neighborhood and a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. The Eugene Police Department has received $146 million from Eugene's general fund, almost 40% of the general fund, on top of another $30 million from the community safety payroll tax. What is EPD doing with this funding? Harboring racist officers, refusing to protect Eugene pride from bigots, harassing our unhoused community. These all represent profound failures to ensure public safety. What sort of problems are Eugenians facing? Surveys show that homelessness is one of the biggest concerns for our community. That problem is driven and exacerbated by rising costs of living, a lack of affordable housing, a critically overloaded healthcare system, and a lack of access to addiction and mental health care services. No amount of arrests, trespassing charges, and homeless sweeps will ever address the root causes of homelessness. We need funding for affordable housing, for accessible health care, for services that can connect people with the resources they need. EPD is not suited for that, and in fact, they've demonstrated their unsuitability through a pattern of brutality against the unhoused community and those experiencing mental distress. We need funding for a real alternative response program. For decades, we had Cahoots, which received nationwide attention for its innovative approach to crisis response. Cahoots workers in Eugene were trained to provide medical aid, de-escalation, assistance with transportation, and could spend the extra time to follow up and connect people with the services they needed. This led to better outcomes for clients and built rapport with the community. They responded to 18% of emergency calls, provided a level of support that EPD couldn't, and for a fraction of the cost. Alternative crisis response, accessible medical care, including addiction and mental health support, and affordable housing is what will make our community safer. These are the programs that need to be a priority in the budget, not a racist and bigoted police force. Recent events only highlight long-running failures of the Eugene Police Department to protect our community, to protect unhoused people, to protect immigrants, and to protect people of color. This is why EPD funding needs to be redirected towards the public good, towards real community need, and this is why Police Chief Skinner needs to resign.
Thank you, Robert. Our next speakers are Eli Mazet, followed by Martin.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Eli Mazet. I was born and raised here in Eugene, and I've been a vendor at the Saturday Market for 26 years. I've seen the city grow, and for over 23 of those years, no amplification was allowed downtown. But in the last 3 years, bullhorns and other amplification has disrupted the entire town square. Eugene City Code 4.083 prohibits amplification. Sound plainly audible 50 feet away on public property or in public right-of-way without city permission. And Code 4.080 makes it illegal to create any noise disturbance that would allow or annoy a reasonable person of normal sensitivity day or night. There is nothing in the First Amendment that guarantees amplified speech. The Supreme Court cases Kovac versus Cooper and Ward versus Rock Against Racism affirm that cities have the right to regulate amplification to protect public spaces, even in the context of free speech. For years, we've emailed the chief of police and city officials, sent letters, and spoken to sergeants, but we're seeing no action. This also disrupts thousands of tourists from across the country and thousands of local patrons who visit downtown. Local people who do commerce down there, who rent spaces and permits, are sick and tired of it, and it's crucial to remember that any regulations must be content neutral and reasonable, just as the courts have upheld, so we can balance free speech and commerce. Just imagine if I would have brought a bullhorn here tonight, right next to you, less than 50 feet away. This is ruining our ability to conduct business. For the farmers market, please enforce the law. Let's bring the city of Eugene, the downtown of all of Eugene, back so we can thrive. The people that are coming here are from out of the city of Eugene. They're here to harass all of us. They were arrested last week in Salem. They're targeting the lesbian and gay community. They're targeting, in fact, I'm documenting it. This is a civil rights case against them eventually, one day. And I would appreciate if you guys would stand up.
Thank you, Eli. Our next speakers are Martin, followed by Eliza Brock.
So for months now, people have came up, talked about how just too many people are dying on the roads. We had the tragic case of somebody getting hit just recently. And I was reading an article about how in order to combat this problem, EPD is going to be patrolling the downtown area on the weekends. And it's just so appalling to me that the solution to all of this, senseless death at the hands of other motorists is being used as a ploy to extract more money from the people. When times are hard, I don't think that applying more tickets and putting more people in jail will necessarily solve the problem of people not reading road signs. I do think that I've seen...
We're going to get this thing straightened out, Quentin.
What?
Sorry about that.
Since I've lived in Eugene for 15 years now, I have witnessed 2 people die by being hit by cars. One of those was a city bus driver. And last I checked, that person, the bus driver, I don't think that he was hammered on a Saturday night driving down the road. The problem isn't the people driving around, it's the signage. It's just, don't skirt responsibility and put it on the people and take our money. It's wild that the police are even an option, considering that they are recently proven to be bigoted, racist people. They want to spy on us. They just take more and more money. Cahoots is gone, and then somehow they're an effective tool for this. It's wild. While I got you too, I'm just going to say it's very funny to me that for months we were talking to you about how the fence is illegal and it's not okay to be there, and it's just an obvious infringement on our rights. I'm being told multiple times that there's nothing that you could do, and then one court hearing, and now it has to be gone in 48 hours. And it just goes to show how ineffective and how spineless city council is when it comes to standing up to people of, being targeted in our communities. I think that it's wild to see how when you don't have a boot in your mouth and a spine, you can actually make change that helps people. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Our next speakers are Eliza Brock, followed by Cameron Stringfield.
Good evening. My name's Eliza Brock. I'm a lifelong resident of the River Road area. I'm here as a proud lesbian to speak on EPD's decision to not provide traffic control or support for the Eugene Pride Rally and March, leading the organizers to cancel the outdoor portion of the event. To quote Eugene Pride's statement on the subject, they stated that any of our volunteers that were in the street could be viewed by EPD as engaging in disorderly conduct. This despite the fact that EPD has provided traffic control for at least 4 unpermitted marches in Eugene this year, including a Charlie Kirk rally and march, end quote. In light of this and the body cam footage released last month showing an officer making racist comments and trivializing domestic violence, it's becoming obvious which people EPD intends to protect and which people they intend to suppress and assault. I echo the sentiment I've heard in the wider LGBT community when I say we are disappointed but not surprised, that we are not fooled by empty buzzwords and symbols without material support, that we've learned from our elders and do not put our faith in the police. For that reason, I am not here to ask for apologies or backtracking from EPD, rather to demand that Chief Skinner resign and that EPD funds be directed towards organizations that actually protect and serve the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. Our next speakers are Cameron Stringfield, followed by Amanda Wahlberg.
Good evening. My name is Cameron Stringfield. I live in Ward 7. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I am a lesbian transgender woman living in Eugene, Oregon. I missed the last city council meeting, but of course, as I have said in other city meetings, and as I said in my opinion piece in the Eugene Weekly last week, I join those who are calling for Chief Skinner's removal. I won't take so much time to speak on that because I've already explained why that is. So today I want to speak on 2 things. First, I know that you're going to discuss surveillance technology again soon. We as Eugenians are not in need of more mass surveillance systems now. We are in need of services and resources locally that prevent poverty and crime rather than expanding the surveillance state and using our tax dollars to give EPD more cameras to spy on us all. The community made this clear when we rejected Flock last year. As it stands, there's already too much surveillance here with drones, Guardian trailers, and the Stingray system. We need to cut back, not buy more. Worth noting that the Drones as First Responders program is at least partially funded by the Eugene Police Foundation, and we continue to demand full transparency around the funds of the Eugene Police Foundation, and we reject any new ALPRs. Second, I want to bring attention to the news this morning, as was mentioned, from Eugene Pride. In a note posted to their website, they canceled their rally in March in part because of the non-cooperation from the Eugene Police Department and threats to charge those who choose to march in the streets with disorderly conduct. However, as Eugene Pride pointed out, Eugene Police afforded full protection to a white supremacist event in the fall of last year. As Mayor Knudsen recognized in her proclamation of Pride Month this year, Stonewall was an uprising. But what was it an uprising against? It was an unpermitted uprising against the NYPD and a violent system of repression that was cracking down on their community. The struggle of Stonewall in 1969 is alive today, almost 6 decades later. This community will protect our LGBT+ members as we have in the past. However, it is necessary to call out these threats of charges against the march participants and lack of cooperation from EPD because the chief and the city often try to frame the department as progressive and our protectors. We can see that this is not the case.
Thank you, Cameron. Our next speakers are Amanda Wahlberg, followed by Taryn Brevig.
Hi. So I emailed this to you guys last week. It's pretty disturbing footage. It's footage of the 4J building with someone in it engaging in inappropriate actions with a child. It's bloodstains all around the University of Oregon campus. No one responds to it. No one else talks about it here. Kind of makes me think you're all part of it, right? But like, literally, like, and if you think about the University of Oregon, they're indoctrinating people into like these satanic rituals. There's child trafficking happening. I live by the Autzen Stadium. I have to have in my awareness every night what's going on there, okay? And I've documented it, and they have their own private police force that just protects the whole thing. And also, I don't really like to use the straw man of Jeffrey Epstein, but I will in this case because guess who funds a lot of the U of O? Bill Gates. Who is he friends with? Jeffrey Epstein. And to me, it's actually more scary that we have city officials, that we have police officers, that we have people working in elementary schools, working in like these organizations that are supposed to be helping the community, that are all involved in this, doing the exact same things that the people in the Epstein files are doing. So I will use that, but like, is that a coincidence? Probably not. And like, I don't know if you guys are like afraid of some of these people or what's going on, but like, I don't believe that most people just wake up one day and want to be like that and want to participate in that. I don't believe that people are inherently evil. I don't believe that about people, but until someone else decides to start telling the truth and we decide to like actually protect the kids in this community, like this place is hell. And I just hope that anyone else that has the courage to tell the truth does.
Thank you, Amanda. Our next speakers are Taryn Brevig, followed by Roman Anderson.
My name is Taryn Brevig, and I live in Ward 1. In response to the Martin Siller incident, Chief Skinner said in his public statement, "You don't want the entirety of the reputation of the Eugene Police Department to be shaped by one officer's actions." As many community members have already stated for the past 3 city council meetings, I would like to challenge that this was not just an incident by one person, and instead a reflection of the EPD culture that Skinner has allowed in his 8-year reign. In 2019, Officer Samuel Tykel killed Elaborio Rodriguez, and Chief Skinner has since promoted him to sergeant, and he trains new officers. In 2020, Officer Christopher Drum stalked and raped a domestic violence victim twice after she called the police for help. After demanding answers from EPD, they arrested the rape victim for felony riot charges. Officers Wes Darling, Judson Watson, and Joshua West all committed sexual or domestic assault on women. Former EPD officer Kristen Carville was harassed by her sergeant for 4 months straight despite begging to be moved repeatedly. She said in her 4 years as a patrol officer, she was surrounded by a culture of harassment and sexism, and several other female officers left the department shortly after she did. While not responding to community members attempting to report ICE kidnappings, recent viral footage shows EPD interfering with rapid responders on behalf of ICE. And those are just the incidents that we know about. This one officer's actions narrative ignores that this officer is just the latest example of this culture. Removing one person alone won't reform the culture that Chief Skinner would leave behind. So we also demand that the city give civilian oversight bodies the power to act on their findings. Today, the police auditor and the Civilian Review Board can make recommendations to Chief Skinner, but he holds the power to ignore them. These review boards need to be given teeth so that it's not up to the police chief whether accountability happens or not. Currently, the window for logging complaints with the Civilian Review Board is 60 days from the time of the incident. This window should be extended. The 2021 Ad Hoc Committee on Police Policy already recommended that this window should be extended to 1 year for non-fatal incidents and 2 years for fatal incidents, as well as requesting the Civilian Review Board reach out to the victims' families to help them navigate the whole process. I say recommended because that committee also has no power. It's time for Chief Skinner to resign, and it's time for real community control to make a stand that this behavior and culture will not be tolerated in Eugene.
Thank you, Taryn. Our next speakers are Roman Anderson, followed by Peter Dragovich.
Council, staff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come down here today. I came down here with a different intent, but when I heard Susan Ban recite the Declaration of Independence, it filled me with a sense of pride, a sense of the yearning that our forefathers had to have the ability to address their government. And sitting here for the last hour or so, I've heard that. I've heard this marketplace of ideas, and I want to thank you for that. Susan, I don't think she's here anymore, used to work with my wife down at Shelter Care. She was the executive director. It reminded me that there are good people in this community on the front lines just trying to make the world a little bit better of a place. I heard testimony from this citizen right here, and it touched me. I'm sorry that our community did not do a better job for you. What I came here today to speak to you about was affordable housing. Mr. Keating, you spoke about the need to be inclusive in those contracts that you have with people. Mayor Knutson, you spoke about the projects that you have in the works where you're trying to build more affordable housing. This citizen right here in the red shirt, she mentioned the idea of building accessory dwelling units and subsidizing those. I'm a general contractor. I build accessory dwelling units. We charge about $200,000 to build those. The affordable housing project that you guys approved today, which I support, is about $300,000 per unit. If we include smaller contractors in some of these programs, such as you have suggested with bigger diversity, I believe that the city of Eugene has an opportunity to significantly save money on building more affordable housing and providing roofs for more people. I would suggest that as these new affordable housing units come online, that you figure out ways to include more smaller contractors in those so that we can provide more housing for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. Our next speakers are Peter Dragovich, followed by Bill O'Brien.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Peter Dragovich, residing in Ward 5. The Eugene Weekly recently published a letter from a resident who wrote, "I have watched the slow changing of the land around me. The old Douglas firs on my property are showing signs of stress. During one brutal drought and heat wave, the creek near my home stopped flowing for the first time in 60 years. Tree frogs that filled the evenings with sound have nearly vanished. Even bats that flickered through the dusk, catching insects, are rarely seen. Watching the slow unraveling of a living ecosystem feels like losing old friends." Michael T. Inoyosa. These observations are not surprising. Oregon has now broken our record for the lowest snowpack in recorded history. The director of the Oregon Climate Service said a few weeks ago, we are anticipating big water shortages for irrigation. 17 Oregon counties are now under declared drought emergency. 5 were added last week. 81% of Lane County is classified under severe or extreme drought presently, 52 and 29% respectively. A Statesman Journal headline last month, "Douglas fir die-off spreads into Willamette Valley amid drought." Average summer temperatures have increased locally by 3.1 degrees Fahrenheit. The frequency of hot summer days has doubled in Eugene. Nighttime temperatures in Eugene have risen by nearly 2 degrees over 30 years. Fortunately, the city of Eugene is proactive on climate. You have an accomplished staff. Much has been done, much remains. The city as an organization is halfway to the target of 50% greenhouse gas reduction by 2030, achieving 24%. And the community-wide target of 50% has only been achieved to 11%, so there's 39 points there to make up in 4 years, because the ordinance was originally adopted in 2014. The Climate Recovery Ordinance is not a resolution, a general plan, or an aspirational statement. It has hard targets and uses the word shall 9 times. There are no mays, coulds, or shoulds in the ordinance. As such, it is open to court review and enforcement. But let's not amend our way out of this. Let's achieve the 2030 reductions for the thousands of Eugenians who expressed support for climate action over the years, for succeeding generations, and for a healthier and more prosperous future. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Peter. Our next speakers are Bill O'Brien, followed by Ember.
I'd have to say 2 people that I look up to is Stan Taylor and Tim Lewis. I consider them state treasurers, Eugene treasurers. I consider someone like Tim Lewis on the same level as Steve Prefontaine. Why? Because he ran around that track, Haywood Field, shortly after they blew it up. So congratulations, Nike. You know, last Monday, who could you blame? No one wants to take any responsibility. Blame. They don't want to. But in other cultures, they say, they'll bow humbly and say, I screwed up. But it's really hard to put blame on this, you know? I mean, they were frying in the heat. They were collapsing. So they moved over to, where else but Haywood Field? And then you have distinguished faculty member collapses in the heat, makes a speech at 4 o'clock. Then they all go home. You know, parents, graduates, and you know, it's like the frog. when you put the frog in water, the frog likes water. Heat up the water slowly, the frog likes the water slowly. And then the frog dies. It's comfortable. It dies, you know. That's kind of like what we're going through now. And basically, I just see right here from Daily Emerald, 59% of this University of Oregon income out of state. If I'm not certain, it's $56,000 a year for out of state. That probably doesn't even include the housing, you know, dorms, building all these massive skyscrapers. And what do you got? You're going to have a housing bubble crunch very soon, but that's happening already. So maybe these best and the brightest of all of us, they're going to say, my God almighty, I can't, why did I even come here? I mean, I'm getting priced.
Thank you, Bill. Our next speakers are Ember, followed by Jan Bowman.
My name is Ember, and I live in Ward 7. And before the fence around the federal building went in, myself and a lot of people gathered tonight worked gathering signatures for a proposed pedestrian promenade project on Pearl between 6th and 7th, because we had hoped that that would be an opportunity for our city government to do, you know, something. And when I brought those signatures to the council, my councilwoman emailed me to say that city projects take time and hearings and budgets, which is true. So I'm sure glad you found a bunch of money in the local road fund to put a sidewalk in next to that fence. A sentence that I wrote earlier today before we got the injunction. So a fence that is now coming down, I assume also at taxpayer expense. So, question, was this sidewalk planned before the fence? Because if not, then the city can in fact move quickly when it is convenient for you. And if it was planned, that's the sort of opaque leadership that gets councilors recalled. How are we, the taxpayers, going to be recouped for the local tax money that was spent on the sidewalk that we no longer need because the fence is coming down? And for the record, as always, I am not speaking tonight because I believe that this council will save us. If we want Eugene to fight fascism, corporate power, and federal occupation, we're going to have to build that power ourselves. Because we know who protects us. And it's not EPD, and it's not DHS, it's not you, it's us. So with that, hey friends. Come fight fascism with us at the building. It's fun. We have
Speaker,
snacks.
would you please address the council with your remarks? There is, of course, time to speak with the public, but this is to speak with City Council.
Great.
Thank you.
Come hang out at the building with us. There are snacks. And of course, there are many reasons we haven't seen as many people at the building recently. And, you know, knowing that our city government doesn't have our backs doesn't really help with that. But if you are here because you care about Eugene, then do not let your counselors, EPD, or DHS tell you not to believe your eyes. We protect us. Also, I've read the Declaration of Independence like 3 times in the last couple of months to the Fed, so if this is your first time hearing it in a while, you can come hear it more. We protect us, and I look forward to continuing to protect us in the plaza. Thank you.
Thank you, Ember. Our next speakers are Jan Bowman, followed by Wynn Mansell.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, and City Manager. My name is Jan Bowman. I live in Ward 2, and I'm active with 350 Eugene. Something exciting and wonderful has happened in my extended family recently. We have 4 new babies in the last 3 months. I'm happy, grateful, and honestly a little surprised that the intelligent, thoughtful young adult parents are optimistic enough to venture into parenthood at this time that we face such huge challenges. It gives me great hope, and it also renews the urgency of some big questions. What kind of world are we leaving for our children? Can't we do better? What is holding us back? Much groundwork has been laid in our local efforts to make the transition off of fossil fuels. We have a great climate recovery ordinance and climate action plan. We have new reporting tools to track progress on our goals. We have great staff and a dedicated sustainability commission. And we have a motivated community. The Yale Climate Opinion Maps show that 69% of adults in Eugene Springfield are somewhat or very worried about climate change. And yet we seem a little stuck, unable to accomplish actions to make enough impact. We used to be a leader. Now other communities are surging ahead. There are opportunities before us right now that can shift us into higher gear. This week, you'll consider the Home Energy Score program. When implemented in other communities, more homeowners have pursued energy upgrades and taken advantage of existing incentives. Please approve the next steps to establish this program. We started some great collaborative projects like getting more solar at the Eugene Airport and adding solar at the YMCA. These hit some snags, but we can get them back on track. And let's pursue more solar pilot projects in collaboration with eWeb. Let's also put concerted effort into decarbonizing public buildings and demonstrate by example how others can do the same. Perhaps most exciting of it all, let's get the Eugene Clean Energy Fund on the November ballot and pass it. This measure would put a 2% surcharge on big box stores that make more than $1 billion nationally and $500,000 locally, and use the estimated $15 million in annual proceeds to fund renewable energy and efficiency projects, clean energy jobs, and more. Let's have the big polluters and national chains help pay for these programs. Portland passed a similar measure a few years ago and has made great progress. The clean renewable energy transition is here and we need to get on board. Let's do it for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Our next speakers are Wynn Mansell, followed by Blair Hickok.
Good evening, Council and City staff. Wynn Mansell, Ward 7. I came here tonight to talk to you about the city's still in process AI policy. In the process of getting that together, I happened to listen to your guys' work session on mass surveillance. I want to say I appreciate the fact that multiple councilors, some who I did not expect to come together on this, are starting to take seriously the issues of transparency and public engagement on software and products like this. Very quickly, I want to say the idea of getting an inventory of what you guys have together and making that publicly available is very important. When I worked with city staff on my PRRs around AI policy, they were very gracious and were very helpful and made it very clear that it was a lot of effort for them to even get together the contracts that they were able to share with me, which tells me that having an inventory of that stuff available just helps everybody. The other thing I wanted to mention is I heard the bit about the grandfathering idea. I want to encourage you to take a look at San Jose's, which I've included, AI policy and guidebook, and look more seriously at a sunset policy. Review the software and products that you have in line, and if they do not meet your quality, sunset them, get rid of them. The two big things I want to bring to mind when you guys are working on AI policy, though, that you'll find that there's plenty of prior art from our sister cities in Bend, Portland, Woodburn, San Jose that will be very useful. Where I want you guys to raise the bar is to look at the ethics of utilizing these products, specifically AI products. They will be part of any mass surveillance product that is brought before you, and ask whether the city is comfortable using products built off of stolen data and abused workers. Also, take very seriously the human-computer interface components. I saw that the city didn't have a good feel about those. Take in mind the effects on your city staff of using these tools. I've included an article that formulated a lot of the policies I brought to my employer about not forcing people.
Thank you, Wynn. Our next speakers are Blair Hickok, followed by David Eigel.
Hello, I am Blair Hickok, Ward 2. So I'm a Trio McNair Scholar. I did research on housing policy. I'm also a grad student entering the Masters of Public Administration. So I have a lot of both lived experience on the streets and academic experience trying to figure out why that is happening so frequently here. So there's some things that have been going down for quite a few years, and I chatted about some of them last time I was here. But one of the things that I forgot to mention is some of the myths that we need to bust. A lot of folks are under the impression that we are busing folks in from out of state and things like that. But if you look at any of the point in time counts, that's just not the case. We're looking at less than 2% of people who are on the streets here are not from here. They were priced out of housing here. So that being said, a lot of these folks are also working. A lot of these folks are working full time. A lot of these folks are entering homelessness, like I said last time, disabled, elderly. The other demographic that's really alarming is women escaping domestic violence with children. So again, we've got these really vulnerable populations that we're supposedly gonna make housing for, but these are the folks that are severely rent burdened. Their rent costs are over 50% of their income if they have an income at all. They are going to be imminently priced out of housing. So my question is this middle mix housing that's going in and all of this low-income housing, and thinking about the fact that the chronically unhoused population is exponentially increasing every year, is any of it supportive? Is any of it supportive housing? Because like I said last time, people's skills, their life skills devolve the longer that they're on the streets, and these folks are getting on the streets for longer. I was out there 10 years ago, the people are still there. They are still there when I go out and serve them food, they are still there. I was lucky enough to have a hand up in certain situations. People took chances on me, and here I am now today to speak at you as an academic and a scholar with lived experience. So, all that being said, can we stop focusing on the students? Because I also served on the Tuition and Fee Advisory Board, and our enrollment is down significantly, and all the housing that's being put up from them is going to be empty. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Our next and final speaker is David Eigel.
David Eigel, Ward 1. Does any member of the City Council or the Mayor believe that Eugene was a sundown town? That was the question I posed in an email to our mayor and the members of the City Council recently. No one emailed me back that they do, and that the documented record I have provided makes incontrovertibly certain that Eugene was not a sundown town. It makes sense that no one would It would make sense that no one would want to raise their hand to make a public fool of themselves. Anyone can ask Google AI about the census records for Eugene during the decades of 1900 through 1960 and other public sources that will confirm our 135 proud years of Black residents. That being the case, it's time for the mayor and the city council members to act responsibly and acknowledge that they've been scammed by Talisha Brown and her associates. We all make mistakes, but adults are supposed to act responsibly to correct known mistakes. You haven't so far. If you don't act, I will. I can assure you that come the fall, that enough of the public will be aware of this fiasco and your lack of taking responsible, redemptive action that this will become a widely known scandal, possibly attracting national attention. I would rather donate money for scholarships and school enrichment programs than take out ads advising the public of how certain public officials are letting them down, but I will if I must. Eugene city officials need to act now. The public will be informed one way or another. I can cite conclusive primary source documentation that is available to support what I am saying. Talisha Brown hasn't, and she and city and county officials won't be able to. If the mayor or any city or council member wants to consult with me, I'm available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you, staff. I now close the public comment. Are there any comments from City Council? Seeing none, I'll say thank you to everyone who joined us this evening for public comment. Sorry, Councilor Keating, I can't see. Sorry, it didn't come up on my screen.
I jumped in late.
Go ahead, Councilor.
My apologies. Mayor, I just want to say thank you as well, and I want to go backwards. There's a few notes I have. Blair Hickok from Ward 2 in South Eugene asked about housing connected to services, and I would invite anyone interested in that topic to look at our work session this afternoon when we passed unanimously reinvesting in 1059 Willamette, which has 133 units, 68 of which are for folks who are making 80% of the area median income, 65 of which are market rate housing, 10 units designated for survivors of domestic violence, connected directly with the Hope and Safety Alliance, formerly Women's Space. Those units, of all those units, they're all the 133 that will be right connected to transit right here downtown, pet amenities, all electric utilities, and the project is pro-labor with prevailing wages. So please check out our work session prior to tonight's forum on that 1059 Willamette project. Roman, thank you. Roman, right? Thank you for joining this marketplace of ideas tonight and sharing your enthusiasm for broadening the opportunities for a more diverse array of small, local, minority and women-owned contractors. It's greatly appreciated. I appreciate your voice. One of the first votes I took when I was elected to this council and sworn in on January 6, 2021 of all dates, we had in front of us the issue of expanding ADUs, accessory dwelling units, throughout this community, and I proudly was in the affirmative, allowing for more flexibility to keep families together and to reduce the cost of housing in our community. So thank you for your work in the ADU space. I'm pleased to announce, colleagues and citizens and constituents and residents, we floated a work session last week, I believe it was, June 11th, it was announced. 7 in the affirmative, no in the negative, to advance a work session on the subject of, quote, expanding, I'm not quoting directly, excuse me, this is off the top of my head, expanding on the timeline for complaints to the police auditor's office. As I understand it, right now it's a 60-day window for certain complaints and a 6-month window for others. I'm thrilled that we're going to have that conversation to hopefully expand the ability for the citizenry to complain or provide accommodations, either way, to the police auditor. What's the city's, gas-powered leaf blowers. Question, City Manager, I don't need it right now, but I'm curious on what percentage of our city's fleet are gas-powered vehicles, and for our parks team, what's the percentage of leaf blowers that we have are electric versus gas-powered, and if there's a plan to advance electrification? I'm out of time. Can I get just 30 seconds a second round without objection?
Please, Councilor.
Traffic on Hilliard was brought up. Thanks, Councilor.
But there are no others in the queue.
Thank you. Thank you. Traffic on Hilliard was brought up, and I've reiterated my enthusiasm seeing white-knuckled stopping and waving people over. I've reiterated my enthusiasm to the city manager. We've all been there on Patterson and Hilliard and stopped for a pedestrian, and there's not a crosswalk. You wave someone over, and the vehicles in the next lane are whizzing by, and it's dangerous. It's madness. There is a no-cost effort to just simply put up cones as an experiment and move those lanes to one lane rather than a 2-lane highway, and we can realize, I think, that more Vision Zero approach. And finally, Naomi, you asked for, she's not here, written response in regards to what she was cut off, so I didn't quite get it, but what I can glean is written response for resources, and these are my words, no one else's, for communities that are threatened, harassed, bullied, or intimidated by federal agents. I would love to see, Mayor, if it's not there already, if we can put those resources on the city's website for constituents who clearly are in need of said resources. Thank you.
Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. For the city manager, are we doing any work at all on amplified sounds in the downtown area? This has been an issue for quite a while, and I know it's very disruptive to the farmers market and the Saturday market. And it's sometimes very inappropriate things are being said. I've heard it myself.
Not to my knowledge, but we certainly can look at that. We've addressed amplification near the university and have done some clarifying language online, but I'm happy to work with staff on that and take a look at the root of the problem.
I appreciate that. And I just want to make a general comment. Earlier tonight, one speaker was comparing a municipal city council to a federal judge with regards to the fence. We're not equal. City council does not control the federal government. A federal judge can have input unless it's appealed, but It's just not a fair comparison. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Council, any other final comments that you'd like to share in response to the public comment that we heard this evening? Appreciate you all being here with us this evening. And with that, we've concluded our final agenda item, and I'm now going to close the June 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting, and we are adjourned.